Okay, and I'm going to say, even though it's saying we're setting up for the Facebook Live, it seems to always pop in sooner than it tells me it's live on the screen. So we're going to be ready to say live at the Vortex Energy Podcast. And we've got Grandmother Jenny and Grandmother Sue live talking to us. We're going to talk about a number of topics. And I think I need to see if somebody is, yeah, it says it's streaming live. Um, so welcome everyone to the Vortex Energy Podcast, where we talk about things that a lot of people don't always want to talk about. And in particular today, we're going to look at some subjects around healing, health, wellness, depression, end of life care, and some of the things that people kind of gloss over because it can be quite uncomfortable to talk about. But we do a lot of different types of healing at the Vortex Healing Center, but in particular, we let the energies of this vortex do its healing. So welcome, Grandmother Sue and Grandmother Jenny.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So Jenny, you've been visiting from Adelaide for a couple of days, and then a couple of days off the property, and then you came back for a few days. Tell us a little bit about your experience.
I came here because of course, I have a great connection with both you and Sue, and of course, I do a lot of work with the earth. And I knew because of my health condition, and I have very severe health conditions, life-threatening conditions, and that's with celiac, heart disease, and a few other things. So I knew I had to choose for me what was my medicine. And that was a really, really difficult path because, of course, my medicine, people say, is alternative medicine, but it's not. It's the ancient medicine. So I had to listen to all the doctors, and I had to listen to all of the medications that they wanted to do, and I had to endure a whole lot of tests. And I actually had to go through a whole lot of pain and suffering. And you get facing with a lot of fear when you get told you're going to die. And that's not an easy thing to hear when someone says you're going to die. And that sort of gives you a big shaking. You know, that's not an easy thing because people don't want to face that. And this is all part of my big shamanic journey, Barb, because, you know, my job is to trust and to have faith in my medicine and what I've always done. And of course, what greatest test is if you've got to have to face your own truth and you've got to heal yourself and you've got to actually deal with all those things that made you sick. And so this was my healing path. So the last 12 months, of course, was really compounded, for want of a better word, because it started in the February when we went into the shutdown with the coronavirus. So I found that I had extremely limited options of what I could do naturally in a situation. You know, I would naturally have traveled. I would have naturally gone to where I needed to go. I would have gone to the earth. I would have gone to these places, but I was held in a space. And I understand now, looking back, why I was held in that space, because it demanded I had to look at all what we call in the shamanic terms, shadow self.
Yeah.
And that basically means deal with all your own stuff and deal with everything you haven't dealt with. And so I had to deal with abandonment, which I've had to face all my life. And when you come up with big, big, big truths and you want to talk to people about big truths, what I found constantly and what was really, really, quite frankly, traumatic to me was people didn't want to talk about health struggles or facing death or having to make medical, decisions and whatever else. And that was a really tough place because I found people couldn't even face themselves in their own lives. They live a lot of illusions. So here I am with this enormous truth of I'm facing death and I need to deal with these feelings and emotions. And I found that there was really only a couple of people that could hold a space for me to be able to express what I was journeying through and what I was facing.
Yeah, and I think to me, particularly in the spiritual community, a lot of people think, oh, it's all happy and it's all about positivity, which is a big portion of, we all want to be happy, but being faced the dark side of what we all go through, whether it's depression or illness or those fears that we all face. It's not just because you believe you're spiritual that suddenly everything is perfect. It's just the sun shines all day, you know.
It's
So
not
how,
that, and always with my teachings and things, I always say to people, this journey, it's not about warm and fuzzies and fairies and love and lights and angels and everything else.
yeah,
The spiritual journey is understanding all processes in life. And, death is a process that we all face. And very few people want to face that reality, never alone being able to deal with it, accept it, walk through it, face it and say, no, I'm not doing that. And that's what I had to do. So that helped the shaman in me really come out, the medicine woman in me come out, and all the medical profession, they couldn't do anything to help me. And I was basically told, go away, you'll starve to death, and good luck looking after yourself. And if you survive 12 months, you might be okay. And then you get past that, and then they say, oh, no, now you've got this heart condition because you've starved to death. And now you've got this because this has happened. And so every time I would fight to bring myself back, and I'd say, no, I can keep going. And yes, I've gone over that obstacle, bang, another one would come down. And I found that it was so hard because I researched everything. I look at all medications, I look at everything. And there are some amazing doctors that I've got looking after me who have actually respected my choices for me. And that has been amazing, that I've had a couple of doctors that have actually seen me and supported me and allowed me to do what I need to do, because you're not going to heal if you don't believe in something.
for sure.
And
Big help.
I had to deal with a lot of all of those adverse effects. So eventually, when we could get borders open, I knew the very place that I had to come was to the Vortex Healing Centre, because I had to come back to the lands. I had to come back to pure vibration. I had to come back to what was going to feed my I am essence, my soul. And, bless my husband, he got me here again. And it's been a big journey. It really has. And it's been hard on him, really hard on him, because he said to me, he goes, Jen, he goes, everybody thinks you can fix everything. And if you can't fix it, what the hell are we all supposed to do? So you have to see those people around you suffering as well, which makes it hard. So I said, there's one place I have to go. Get me there and I'll be fine. I said, I've got my 2 friends there and I've got the lands there, and that'll be fine. So we lobbed here on the 2nd of the 2nd. And I was in a really bad way. I really was. I could barely breathe. My stomach wasn't taking in things again. And I'd been through a big trauma, which had triggered a whole lot of stuff to clear. But that was the big purging that had to be done to make me say no more and realise that I had to put myself first. And as a healer and as the person that does a lot of spiritual work and who continually is a giver and an empath, or whatever word you want to put, I give to everybody else. And I had to learn, no, Jenny had to come first.
So I want to just
work.
highlight that, because you brought up so many issues that I'd like to dive into, and
Sure.
that first, and there really are so many. We're gonna get to a lot of them, because I really would like to go deep on this, because so many people gloss over what's really hard. They want to, like you said, they want to stay with the fairies and the unicorn, and it's all pretty, and the angels and the rainbows, but real life has real challenges of how we all cope with our own and the death of those around us. But I'd like to reframe it and say, how do we look at our life? How can you live with illness? How do you live your life knowing that at any time, we don't have any clue how many days or hours or weeks or years we have left on this planet? None of us. So how do you live? How were you able to live with that threat and that fear for your own health and your own pain as you were going through your daily life? How did you cope with that?
That was a huge amount of trauma and pain initially, because, the doctor said you could die tomorrow, you could die in 3 months, That's hard when you hear that.
Yeah.
So, and especially when you've said, I'm not going through those procedures, I'm not going on all those medications, I'm going to do what's right for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, that caused a lot of pain to me and to my family to support my decision and my choices. And I got judged by a lot of people, by making my decisions. And some people flat out basically didn't want to talk to me because I offended them by making a choice for me.
Yeah.
And that was really traumatic, because in this time, in your darkest hour, in your time of need, you don't need people's judgments. You need people there to hold a space, to support you, to just simply love you, to just help you through this. Nothing can change it, but, that's where you sit, and you sit in that fear. And that fear is what diminishes you. That fear puts you into your trauma response. That fear shuts your I am essence down. That fear just keeps you in your pain and suffering. So, of course, with my shamanic teachings and my shamanic ways, I just went through each one of those layers of the darkness and light bombed it and said, no, I'm not staying there. I'm not doing this. This is not my walk. And, I've been on the other side. I've faced death and I've come back. And I've done that 3 times now, because I said, no, I'm not going yet. I have not done yet. And so for some reason, I've been blessed to be able to still be here. And so this is why, I said, I have to continue my healing. And this is why, I had an amazing healing business, and I used to teach and do all those things. And last year, all of that I had to give up. Yeah. And that was a really painful process, because it's what you identify yourself as. And that's a really different place to be in, and then all of a sudden, everything that surrounded you, or you did, or how your life was, or what, everything is different. And people don't seem to understand what you have to go through, in this process. But I realize it's that surrendering that gives you the grace.
See, I think that's it. That's it exactly. It is that surrendering of everything that was in the past. And everyone with COVID today has had to face very real issues. I'm not really sure everyone's faced that in the way they needed to, but they've certainly faced with having their entire livelihood and how they identify themselves in very radical ways. So you've just gone through a retirement, and you've had to change your healing practice and your massage therapy numerous times, numerous different careers, and just in the last 10 years. So how do you view these big changes that need to happen, of letting go of what was in the past and starting something new, starting fresh in a completely different way?
Well, look, on our life path, if we don't face any of these decisions, then we're not growing. Basically, we have to learn how to let go, how to change, how to grow, and how to be, and how not to fight the process. I know I think I've had 6 or 7 separate careers, and that the last one was really, really difficult, because, as Jenny said, I had identified with myself through the work I was doing, which at that stage was an lymphedema clinic. I was an lymphedema therapist and had, achieved a lot of really good stuff there, and I had to let it go. And that really, really hurt, because it's the one thing that I had really achieved at and become successful at. And yeah, letting go of that is very difficult. But for myself, it wasn't, because I was headed on a downhill ride there, and I was lucky enough to recognize it and got out of it. But we do have to listen to our shadow self. We have to listen to the little voice, and we have to surrender to do that. And when we get right down all the stuff that we let go, we think we let layers and layers and layers of go. We release heaps and heaps and heaps and think, gosh, how much more can there be? And it's still not right. We're still not flying. What's wrong? But it's not until we get right down to the nitty-gritty, to the cause of what is the problem. And in my first career, one of my first careers, second career it was, as a naturopath, I was fortunate enough to do it in the early days, and I learned the simple truths, like find the cause. We weren't allowed to treat the symptoms in those days. We had to actually ferret through people's lives and find what the actual cause was. And nobody wanted to heal that way, so I had to take on another career. They just wanted pills and drops and things. They wanted to do it the easy way. But there is no easy way. And time again, we'll be brought back to the place where it's nearly death or nearly, total collapse, until you actually find the cause. Say, right, that's it. I've had enough. I'm out of this.
And so I'm going to ask both of you. Yeah, I'm going to ask both of you this question separately. Do you think that with COVID and with death all around us, with hundreds of thousands of deaths in the past year attributable to one illness and massive life changes that everyone has to go through, do you think it's helped people to face the really deep, dark fear that we all have of death? So go ahead, you first, Jenny.
I don't think so. Unless it's actually their truth and their reality, they still see it as an extension, or, oh, that's somebody else. That's not me. And it's that, there's a wonderful saying, why, life asks death, why does everybody love me and hate you? And death turns around and says, because you're a perfect illusion and I'm a bit of truth. And most people live an illusion and a lie and have masks, and this is what we want the world to see. But do many people actually show their truth and their real self, their authentic self? So yes, people are observing the changes in the world, which has brought up a lot of fear, but unless death has touched you personally or literally, someone so close to you, you don't know what it's like.
How about you, Sue? How would you answer that question? Has this whole concept of COVID helped people to face death, their own fears about death?
Well, yes, I think in certain contexts it has, because it forced people to stop. And when you stop, you have to. And when you think, you actually find stuff. They've had plenty of time. They've rediscovered family. They've rediscovered laughter and fun together instead of just working non-stop. But many people, like Jenny says, they haven't even heeded the call. They haven't realised that, hey, this is a wake-up call. COVID is nothing but a wake-up call. It's a deadly disease, and if you don't actually start to live life and find out who you are, what you're all about, then you die.
So I think that actually brings us to the really great point, because to me, it's not about fearing death or fearing what happens tomorrow. It's about how do we choose to live today? Because that is the hard choice, whether we're in pain or whether we still have some issues to work through, because we're all still here, whoever's listening to this. So we all still obviously have some things to do on this particular earth. So how do you go about, Jenny, creating a mindset for yourself that in spite of all these crazy things that are happening in your own life and in your own body, how do you create that desire to wake up and live another day?
Actually, that came when the heart specialist told me those raw truths. I walked out of that office and I said, I'm going to be happy. I don't care how much time I've got left. I'm going to be Jenny, and I'm going to do Jenny the way Jenny does best. And I'm just going to make myself happy. So it has to be a conscious choice. I could have stayed there and it would have been so traumatizing and so empty and so, I would have just withered away to nothing. But I said, no, that's not what I'm going to do. So I had to set myself many little challenges, reasons to keep going, And he said to me, you can do anything you've always done. So I said, good. So what I did, I went and I just gutted my whole front garden and redid my whole front garden. What would have taken me 2 weeks took me 2 months, but I was determined to do that, to prove to myself that I still had the stuffing and the inner fortitude to be me and to do what I needed to do. And so that was one of those really, you have these psychological hurdles, for want of a better word. And that was me saying, no, I'm not going to be defined by an illness. I'm not going to have this. I'm just going to be me, and I'm going to be present. And from that moment on, peace started to come back to me. That inner fight, that inner turmoil, that inner trauma. I wasn't battling between me and the world and what was going to happen or whatever else. You have to do with business and put all your ducks in a row or whatever you want to say. But once that was done, I was free to just simply be me. And that was so important. And that was why, as soon as the borders opened and as soon as I could travel, because I tried to get here in November and I couldn't book flights and our borders shut. And I thought, okay, I have to do some more healing.
Yeah.
And it kept me at home and it kept me trapped, which this bird likes to fly. I like to be free, And that was more keeping me in. So it meant I had to keep going through that shadow, deeper, 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 getting to every trauma that I've experienced in this lifetime and any other lifetime, and dealing with that. And it was such a blessing, because this year has turned, and I there's great peace, and there's great happiness, and there's great contentment in the most simplest of things. And so when we got to Tasmania, and this is where you sometimes see full circles in your life. We came here for our honeymoon 36 years ago, and I've not returned with my husband since. Yet
So funny.
at this point in our life, he is now retired so we can have time together. We came back here. Now look at life's full circles.
Yeah.
And that's really, really beautiful. But in that time here, we came here and I got to the Vortex, and I was really weak. And you and Sue can both attest to how weak I was. And I sat for 5 days here, getting the energies of the land, just allowing the energies, drawing it in, bringing in all the medicine of everything that was around me and bringing it in. I started on your I Am Essence. The moment I got here, I got given a bottle. Here, get this into
It is. Speak of the devil, we have this. Look, this is what it looks like.
There it is. And that immediately, within 1 hour, my I Am Essence, my highest self, came straight back into my body, saying, hello, there's a connection and a reason to stay, for want of a better way of putting it. Because my physical body was not my friend for a while, and it caused a lot of pain and suffering. So, of course, there was the separation within me, and that's a natural part of this process. And so within an hour, I could feel myself present. And that was me stepping back into my physical self and deciding, okay, the healing will happen. The healing is coming in. This is a shift. This is a change. This is the journey, and allow it. Sue and I have an amazing connection. We've walked a very similar path, and we understand each other very deeply. And so she's able to get to places to me and trigger things to come out in me, just as I trigger things for her. We're big mirrors for each other with that, and we hold big truths for each other. And so part of the healing process is to face some things and hear some things you might not want to hear, but you do need to hear them. And that's unconditional love, when someone will tell you something that maybe you've struggled to face, but they'll say, this is what you need to face and this is where you need to go. And so for 5 days, and I look back and I'm reflecting, because it's been 14 days since I've been here now. 5 days, 5 is the number of change. So it took 5 days initially for me being here for me to change and come back into myself. Then we left the Vortex energies for a few days, and we traveled around and we did normal touristy stuff. And that was where it allowed me to leave the highest of highest vibrations to allow everything to percolate and shift and move. And it was about 3 days after that I actually had the real release of the real core feelings that come up to express about how my needs weren't met. And that was a really important truth. And so once that came up, it allowed me to get to the place that needed to be healed, where the real deep trauma was. And so we came back here, and 3 days we've been here again. And I knew I had to come back in, and it was so beautiful, because I am always, my shamanic is always about the medicine and the signs that come. And we'd been out and we'd gone to the ocean, and the ocean, of course, is moving the emotions and allowing your life to be fluid, in the aspect of water, connecting with your emotions and feelings. And we came back and we were sitting in here, and I heard my black cockatoos call. And so I went outside, and 3 black cockatoos were calling around, and then they were heralding, and I looked to the east, an eagle flew over. And if you know shamanic medicine, Creator sends eagle from the east. And I knew my medicine was coming. And I called Sue and I said, Sue, eagle medicine is here. We went outside, and that eagle called its mate. And the masculine and feminine came together, and they did big circles, and then they come together, formed a figure 8, the infinity, then they separated. Sue and I looked at each other, and we both said, it's time for your healing. Now, this was 11 days 11 days after I'd arrived.
Yeah.
So this was the importance of me simply surrendering to the energies here. I wasn't driving the healing. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't active in that healing. I was simply in a space of surrender and deep peace and acceptance of allowing what was to come.
And that surrender. So before you finish this, Jen, I want to just highlight that concept of you as a professional healer who teach people how to surrender. When we have to do it ourselves, it's a process. It's a totally different.
I also want to jump in here and say that as Jenny has gone through the extra purging and clearing, we get to levels where we don't know what's there. And that's always where the cause hides. But we've got to strip everything away so that we can actually access it. And that's what the healing did. We got to the cause of what it was. We managed to face it, kill it, clear it, and then just heal. And from that moment on, Jenny just took a deep breath and the heart filled right up for the first time for a long time. Blood went right round her body. And she looked at me and I thought, we swapped Jenny's somewhere. This one's a new one.
This is a fresh one. This is a fresh one. This is good. So one of the reasons I really wanted to do this talk today was to capture Jenny while the emotion is still very raw. And again, as someone who's a professional healer, you've dealt with thousands of people probably helping them on their journey. But it is very different when it's our journey, and everyone has to find their own space for that journey and their own way of moving past that resistance and past those blockages that we all set up for ourselves to figure out how to work through them. But Jenny, I wanted you all to see her in her power and her force today, while she's still on the vortex and still fresh from this healing that's happened over the past, ongoing for the past 11 days, and a final big breakthrough just a few days ago. So tell us a little bit more about what happened after you and Sue did that big healing, after you saw the eagles, Jen.
That was really beautiful, because to me, that's how I get my signs. That's my truth. I've got that faith, that belief. That's me. That's my connection. And it's not others, but it's me to the core of my being. And I knew, because the day before, when I came back to the vortex on the Friday, we came back after our travel, and I went down to the vortex and I meditated by myself for a couple of hours. And I actually was given a golden crown. There's photos of me with all the light coming down, and the golden crown was put around me, which we can share on the Vortex page after if you wish. And I knew that Creator had once again heard my prayers. And the golden light is Creator consciousness. And I was so blessed to get not only the Creator consciousness, the golden light, but I got the golden and the magenta rays. So I got the Magdalene, the masculine and the feminine rays were put back in to my crown chakra, my higher self, which allowed me to draw in all of the energies that I needed to do to power myself back up again. Because when you're in that deep shadow self, we often forget our connections. We often forget to ask. We often forget to see the beauty that's around us. We get trapped in the ugly, stress and trauma and fear and pain and suffering, and we don't see what's around us. And so as I sat at the vortex, and it was so beautiful, and the crown came and I got some photos, and then next minute Kookaburra started laughing. And it just laughed and laughed and laughed. And it said, Kookaburra said, bring the joy back into your being, Jenny. Laugh, have fun. Your life is coming back to you. And he laughed for about 15 minutes at me. And I ended up having a belly laugh at the vortex after I had that, because it just activated happiness and joy in me again, you know. And this deep peace came into me. So after we did the healing, the next day it came in that it was time. And this is where you've just got to get out of your own way and you just allow things to happen, you know. We said, let's go, let's do this. And it was done, you know. After that, I had hunger. My stomach growled and it was hungry. I haven't had that for 2 years. I haven't wanted food for 2 years. You know, I could breathe air right down into the base of my stomach again. I had only been able to breathe into my chest since about August. So if you're not getting air in, you're not getting your life force in, you're not getting all of that blood flowing, you're not getting oxygenated blood, you're not getting anything. So instantly I just got off that table. I went, look, Sue, I can do this. And I went, and I opened my chest up and I could breathe, you know?
Yeah.
And that was like symbolically, it was me saying, here's my wings back again. I'm free to be me again. And since then, I've been able to breathe. I can even lay on that side. I can do so much in a few days that I've not been able to do in a couple of years. So that's my tangible measurement of the healing that can happen here at the Vortex. And Barb, I also want to thank you for your beautiful nutritional food and how you're always showing me alternative ways how I can eat good food and superfoods and I can nurture me. And that's all a part of it too, because you can't say I'm not going to take medicine and stick your head in the sand and do nothing, because you have to do the equivalent with either your herbal medicine, your food, your lifestyle. You have to do the meditation to bring your spirit back to calm. You know, you can't just say, I'm not doing that, and then fear and do nothing, because that's not healing anything. That's just running from everything. So my thing was, and this is another thing that came in, Sue called it a booping bird. The whole time when the healing started, this bird booped, but it sounded like a heartbeat. You know, when the heart monitors and they beep, this bird beeped the whole time, and it's changed its beat as my heart was changing, and it went radical for a while as it was clearing. And this bird beeped the whole time of this clearing, and we haven't heard it since.
It was out there this morning. He said hello when I walked this morning.
Ah, there you are. So he's come in.
So I do want to give a big shout out. We've got Jojo and Waza and Susie and Teresa all live on the call and if on Facebook. So if you're watching, give us a shout and let us know where you're watching from. And I do want to touch as well, Jenny, because I know this has affected me when I had a very severe trauma to my body. And that is dealing with depression while you're dealing with the physical symptoms of an illness. And Sue, I know this has been an issue for you, and we've got Waza listening as well, who is walking all around Australia right now to raise money for Beyond Blue that helps people cope with depression. But it's been a big part of the journey of a lot of the light workers who come to see us and talk about it as part of their journey, things that they're facing as they're questioning everything in their life and about life and why they're here and all the big questions that so many people face. So Sue, do you want to address that topic a little bit about coping with depression while someone's coping with physical pain or spiritual pain or emotional pain?
Yeah, look, there's times, you know, when you do get in the depression, when everything is just too hard all the problems are insurmountable, you can't do anything. And you sink and you sink, and the big black hand reaches down and pulls you further. And there's, to all intents and purposes, there is no way out until you decide there's a way out. And that's the very turning point Jenny was talking about before. Until you decide, I'm sick of feeling like this. I've got to get out of my own way. I really have to get this fixed. And I know I've had several periods of depression, but as soon as I recognize it now, I can get out of it. Because I just think, right, I'm heading down that lane again. I've got to change what I'm doing. I've got to get out of my own way. I've got to do what it takes to heal, which is normally doing a big clearing of something that I haven't fully dealt with, and it's as simple as that, and it's as hard as that. It's a two-edged sword. It's so hard to get out of, and you can't get out of it, and then you blame yourself for not being able to get out of it, and then you go for a few days and then you try again, and eventually it works.
And that part there, when when you're in the middle of that, that's the hardest part, because you often don't know how much you've spiraled into that darkness or that helpless or that hopeless place.
Yeah.
And part of that is that spiral of letting go and facing all of that, you know, that emotional trauma, physical, mental, spiritual, wherever your trauma is, you know. And sometimes you can go full blown, you know, you can have your depression, your anxiety, you can have full blown active PTSD sometimes, you know, because you just can't get out of a trauma place. And
Yeah.
that was really hard, because until you can break down what those triggers are, or what's continually bringing that trauma up in you, because I know a lot with the healing is, you know, you do the work to bring the trauma out, but if you're not able to talk about it, if you're not able to share it, if you're not able to speak it, if someone's not able to hold space for you to simply be able to do that, all that gets trapped in and it becomes compounded. And that's where you get that real thick, dense, ugly, almost like a cement, like it's just like this. You can't move, you can't breathe, you can't think, you can't do a thing. And that's the moment when you feel like you're literally buried alive. And you get to a point where you think, if this is what life is, I don't want to be alive. Because
And that,
that's
I
not
think,
living.
that's a really hard thing to talk about, because I don't think I know anyone who hasn't faced that question. You know, do I still want to be here?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very, very hard when you're in that place to keep fighting, when you know you've got so many ailments that are saying, well, we're trying to take you down. And you're saying, no, 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 I'm not going to go down. So then you've got to have that within you, you know. But see, this is where we have this enormous amount of love and light in our being. And it's a separation from self. So it's the trauma that has separated ourselves from our I am essence, or the spirit self, the light body, whatever word you want to say. And that's where we cut off our supply from creator, from God, whatever word you want to say. I say creator, and I mean no offense when I say that. We'd have to draw in energies. We draw in energies from the earth. We draw in everything around us to keep us going. And this is the great separation, is the separation from self. And this is the healing that you have to do. You have to find what traumatized you, what changed you, what stopped you being you, what came in life. And this could be from childhood, it could be from anything, and it can be from past lives we bring traumas in, you know. And what I found was my truths of facing death and where was I was at, people would look at me and they would just go white and grey, thinking, how the hell can she even speak that or think that or feel that or own that? It was like I could have been speaking Russian, you know, because they just didn't want to hear, they didn't want to understand. People would run a mile. And this is why I was so blessed to have my spiritual tribe around me, you know, like-minded souls that understand the journey. Because people that aren't on a spiritual path won't look at shadow self. They run from it, and all they do is project it at everybody else. And people will always take offense from an unhealed place. So, of course, I'm coming with these truths or this need, and I'm saying, you know, this is how I'm feeling. And everyone's saying, no, 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 that's not right. You'll be all right. No, no, no. And no one wanted to acknowledge my truth. Everyone wanted to just brush over it and say to me, oh, you look fabulous. You'll be all right. And I'm thinking, no, you're not acknowledging where I'm at. You know, and that was their fear of not wanting to acknowledge something, which of course compounds depression or PTSD or anxiety, because you're saying, I'm asking for you to hear me, I'm asking for you to meet me here, but they run a mile. And so then you're thinking, okay, well, who's here for me? And that's when, you know, you really find the ones that are there for you in what I call the dungeon. And they are the keepers, and they are the jewels in your crown. And I've been so blessed to have a soul tribe around me, and some family members, few, that stood by me. And that's where you'll face a lot of your pain and suffering, because you'll think all the times you've helped everybody else, and you'll see very few that are there to help you.
Well, again,
and that's
I think
also
it's
a brutal realization.
I think it's a lot of people with that false positivity, thinking, oh, you'll be fine. Well, not everything's fine. We are all going to die at some point. And the question is just,
Yeah.
how are we going to live? How are we going to find happiness in spite of all the other things that are going on in our body and all around us? And how are we
Can I
going to be
just
connected to our highest self? Sorry, Sue?
before we go, can I just add something? There's a very new kind of depression going on.
Sue, I want you to
And
look at the camera.
yeah, I was just wondering who else was talking to myself. There's a very, very new depression going around now, and it's with light workers, and so many of them are feeling it. And it's the fact that they want to go home. They want to leave. They're tired. They're bone tired. They're soul tired. I remember dreaming when I was about 20 years younger. I had 3 months to live. I was dying of cancer of the spine or something, and I woke up and I was so disappointed it was a dream. And I thought, wow, I'm happy. I'm having a great life at this stage. Why would I be so disappointed of dying? But because there's also a depression at a deep, deep soul level, and specifically with light workers now, because they put in so much and given so much of their time and their heart, their soul, their life path, and got very little back for it. It's not that they're not getting it back, it's that they're bone so weary, and it's a tiredness you can't get over. And I've said to a few of them, look, you've really got to change your own thinking on that. Sure, we want to go home. It's much better. We don't have to go through all this garbage. But we're here for a reason, and we're here for a season, and we've got to do everything we're guided to do, and that way we will live a successful life. And that's what this planet is about. It's a growth planet. So don't look at what you haven't got. You've got to look at what you can make of your life now. Reach out to those who are in the same boat, who can help you, who will listen, who will support you. But most of all, reach inside for the strength that you don't know you have. You will find it, I can guarantee you.
That's exactly the place where you find your strength. It's at that moment when you're on your knees, you're in that surrender, and you get out of your own way, and you find miracles, and you find blessings, and you find peace, and you find forgiveness, and you find compassion. And all these things are aspects of love. And every part of your pain and suffering is when you are not living or being your truth. And we are love and light. So the further we move away from that essence, the more we suffer. And this is going on with what Sue was saying, especially the light workers. We've given to exhaustion, to depletion. And this is where now we have to actually put some healthy boundaries up, and we have to learn to say no. And we have to actually put ourselves first, because we can't give what we don't have. And if we're diminished and if we're depleted, then we can't anchor that light to this earth. We can't help people. We can't be the one that delivers the truth. We can't be the one that stands and says, hey, okay, I've been there. Here's my hand. Come on, I'll help you out of that shadow. And so this is where we have to love and honor our needs. And this is the hardest lesson for all light workers, all healers, all whatever word you want to put. That's our biggest lesson, is to love self, come home to self, because
So,
we will always
people have heard that saying a lot and they still don't do it. So, Sue, what do you think are some of the ways that light workers can receive first and stop giving without learning how to receive and treat themselves with respect?
It's a huge challenge for light workers all across the planet now, because they've got to not only be light workers, they've got to actually walk their talk. They've got to be what they have told other people to be. They tell everybody to go inside and grow and change. They've got to do that themselves. They've got to find their own strength. They've got to find true higher self-presence, as Jenny found with the help of our IMS. But bringing the higher self forward is your strength. it's your tie to the greatest energy source there is. And you can tap into it at any time. And we forget to do that, especially as light workers. We're so busy looking at how we can help others, we forget to think, oh, gosh, I need help. I better plug in and charge up a bit.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of just surrendering to the lands here at the Vortex, because I've been here many times over the last 5 or 6 years. And originally when I came, there was the 5th dimension here. A couple of years later, 7th dimension here. I got here, instantly it's 9th dimension. And it's even vibrated higher since Sue and I have come together and done some earth work and some different stuff here. So to be able to sit in that pure essence, to sit in that high vibration, was exactly what my I am essence needed to say, okay, I'll stay on earth because there is heaven on earth. And this is part of our work, is what we do. And I know Sue and I both do some of this work, is we bring that energy from heaven down to earth and we anchor it in through the earth grids and everything else. And that enormous energy has to come through us. So we have to be pure conduits for that energy to come in. And this is also part of the purging and the splattering and the shattering and all of the stuff that comes through. And any dis-ease comes up as diseases within our body, where our chakras and our energy systems and our meridians and all those things are not working and flowing. And so me as a medicine woman, I knew where I had to come to get my medicine. And so that was why I came to the Vortex Healing Centre, because it's multi-layered for me here. I get the purest of earth. I get the purest of connection to Creator. I have my shamanic essence coming here with nature in its purest essence in Tasmania. Beautiful soul sisters who could see me, for me, and knew what I needed. And that's the secret, because you must find the people that can help you find yourself again and give you what you need. There's a big difference between wants and needs. And that's that surrendering. And that is so, so important. So for anyone who is going on this tough journey at the moment, please know that you're not alone. And all those raw emotions and all of that shadow self is real. And any light worker has to clear that shadow self to become whole, to become luminous, to bring that body back into its balanced state. And so that's what I was gifted here. This was my blessing. You know, that was a big test for me, to push myself. And I was like Sue said, I said to Sue, you know what, this earth work and earth walk is too much for me now. I want to go home. And she looked at me and she knew I'd made up my mind. And she said, okay. And she said, come and sit on the lands and then you decide. And now I've come and now I've plugged back in again and I am luminous again. I am home within me again. And today I fly home to my home in South Australia, where I'll go back to my lands there and I'll sit with my lands and reconnect to that, where I'd pulled up all my roots and pulled up everything. Now I have to re-establish it. I went down to the Vortex this morning to say a prayer of gratitude, and it linked in straight away through my medicine wheel into the big statue of Kuan Yin on the hill above me. And it took my medicine home for me. So often we have to ask. And as humans, we can be pretty stubborn. And I'm thankful for my stubbornness because it's the very thing that's kept me here. Yeah. But it's also that stubbornness that has to be broken down to be there when it's needed and when it's not needed. And sometimes we can be our own worst enemy because we keep fighting and we keep battling and we keep enduring when we should surrender. And that's been a huge process and lesson for me. And I'm sure most light workers and anyone that has done a lot of work will find that strength within you can have a double-edged sword. And it's allowing yourself to simply be what you need to be in any given moment. And sometimes we are strong and empowered. And sometimes we're weak and vulnerable. And it's okay to be all of those things. Because one of the biggest things I have to always remember is I'm in a physical body this time. Doesn't matter what I can do on that I am essence and how mighty that essence is, I'm still physical. And it was that physical awakening that had to be done for me. And that was the biggest key for me to truly come home to me again, was to embrace all of that.
That's so awesome, Jenny. We really appreciate you sharing your journey here with us today. And Sue, I want to talk a little bit about how you view healing at the Vortex. How did we heard Jenny talk about how it took a few days. We did nothing special with Jenny, just allowed the land to heal. And then it was, I don't know how many days you were in Tassie and all before any active healing took place. But so just share us with a little bit about why you think the healing occurs here and why people come to our facility to sit and stay for a while.
I think the short version is that when people come here, they're ready. Because it's a long way to come. It's a commitment to come. It's coming with people you're not sure of, you don't know that well. Jenny did know me, fortunately, and she knows I can be a little bit on the tough side. But for me, when each person comes, I just let the land do its work. I just wait and wait and wait, and then when they're right at the crucial stage, ready to face whatever is causing their dilemma or their disease, I will be nudged. Like as soon as I felt that nudge, I went down to the Vortex and I talked to the people that work with me and run the Vortex, like Kuan Yin and Archangel Michael. So I had to talk to them and they said, yes, she's ready, but I kept hearing we had to lance the boil. And I'm sorry using that as a technical term, but it gives me the knowledge of what I need to do. We had to find what was causing that boil. And that it caused a big obstruction for Jenny's life. Her spiritual flow, her mental flow, her physical flow, and her emotional flow. Every one of them was blocked because of that one thing. And so we did that. And I asked Archangel Michael to do his thing, and he did. And we made place for a little miracle to happen. But if you're in tune and being on this land, we're here full time, you and I, Barbara, so we sort of don't notice it as much, but when people come, we do notice it, and the nudges become a little bit stronger because we're just sort of quite happy with the energy. We don't notice the different nuances, and until someone comes and you see the different nuances in them as they absorb the energies. And then we either get what to do or we just let them go, and the land will keep healing them. It's a really unique experience, and each one is very, very different. But we're very, very well guided. We're blessed with some beautiful guardians of the property and people who are spirits and guides to work with.
So do you want to talk a little bit about the IMS and Sue and how that was developed? Because we've talked about it before in the past, but with Jenny's direct testimonial, I want to share a little bit about, without getting too weird, about what makes this homeopathic essence so interesting.
Yeah, well, I was nudged to do something because I was so aware of the trouble light workers are going through. There's so many of them were down and out, and they had lost touch with their I am presence. And we thought, well, when you defend against negativity, light workers have to do time and time again. They've got to protect their pure self, their higher self. But they close themselves to their essence as well. Not their unspirituality that comes through them, but the essence for them is somehow off. And so I wanted to make protection for light workers. And so I set off and we used the knowledge of the York belt that was Max and Nara. And we used the white warrior white waratah. We used our family flowering waratah. We've got a special waratah that's morphed over the years here, and it flowers 12 months a year. And so I added that, and then I thought, oh, I've got these lovely 528 miracle healing gongs from the wonderful Gary Martin. So I gonged that vibration into the essence, and then all of a sudden I could feel all these energies saying, I want to be in it. I want to be in it. And so all these energies kept being added, and the energy of the vortex for a start, there was Kuan Yin was around, again, Archangel Michael, and the energy of the sun disk was vibrating there, and it just kept growing and growing. So it is a one-off essence, and it's not anything but a wonderful help for anybody in any field, because it brings yourself back in your body.
Because I think to me, that's one of the greatest fallacies that everyone thinks of when they think of being spiritual. They think they're not, that you're just going to float up into the heavens and you're not going to be here anymore. But the reality is that we're here in our physical body, and to be able to connect your highest self to here, now that's something interesting. That's now you're really cooking with gas, and it's like, it's a whole different ballgame when you can be confident and comfortable and feel that happiness, because your highest self doesn't want you to be miserable. Your highest self doesn't want you to be depressed. They want you to find a way to be happy no matter what's happening around you. And the I Am Essence so far seems to be the greatest opportunity to connect to that highest force, which is only love. And that's, it's just been an amazingly powerful tool.
You need the story of the lady that came in who asked about her experience of the IMS. And
oh yeah. So we had a testimonial. I asked somebody who had been on it for a while. I knew she'd taken it, and I asked her how she loved it. She goes, I didn't really see any difference. And I said, oh, just tell me about what you're going through. She goes, well, I just feel great. Everything's flowing. I got clarity on some things, that issues I've been working on for years. I was like, oh, well, that is what it does. It makes everything smooth and easy. And that is your high.
oh, we just lost your audio.
Makes this essence so amazing. And we've have a number of different ones that have different healing properties, but this one seems to be the most all-encompassing at bringing that energy from the infinite into the present, into this 3D world that we live in. And how do you cope with what's happening around you? How do you cope with the depression or the illness or the fears or the challenges we all face as human beings every day? So Jen,
it's huge, and that was one of the big things for me too, as you're saying that, Barb, because my I Am Essence, my being, it didn't want that suffering anymore. It couldn't put up with that anymore. That emptiness, it just didn't. So I understood exactly why it had separated from this physical, torture. That it's I'm out of here, and so it had to want to come back. And that's what, when I said before, Sue said to me when I got here, you've got to decide, are you coming back or are you going? Are you staying or you're going? Basically what she said, and that whole process, it took 2 weeks for that whole process to drop in completely, and now I'm going home happy and excited to go home to my place in Adelaide. That's a different Jenny that arrived.
Yeah. Oh, very, very different. Sue, how would you describe the difference in how Jenny looks today versus 2 weeks ago?
When I first picked Jenny up at the airport, I thought, ooh, that'll be a tough one.
Well, there was no smile on your face. You could see you were just struggling just to get through, get through it.
I was existing. I was barely even existing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could see it. I said to Jenny yesterday, it's so clear in photos, more so than being with you, because I can look through you here, but in the 2D photos, no, you could see there was no higher self behind
Mm.
It was
Yeah.
just not there.
Well, we're very honored to share this experience with you, Jenny, and we're thrilled that you came down to join us here. But we have a special treat as well for your husband, who's not a light worker, doesn't describe himself in that way, but we've adapted one of the essences for a golfing fanatic that your husband is, and we've got a new essence called Golfer's Confidence to help bring his I am essence to his golf game. So we're going to test that out. We'll see how that goes. Because the
It's
reality
going to be
is,
wonderful.
everyone is connected to their highest self. The question is just to what degree? To what degree are they connected? And he's already someone who is spiritual, even though he doesn't describe himself that way. And so it's just helping him connect more to his intuition and get clarity for himself, how to cope with the challenges he's got. Because as you well know, it's living through is one thing. Watching someone suffering through a health challenge is also very traumatic. So hopefully
Absolutely. And that was part of his, when Reno came here, he didn't know what to expect. He came to bring me because he knew that I had to come here, you know. But he actually even had his own clearing without even knowing he was having a clearing. And as many light workers do, you know, a lot of people in the occiput and the causal chakra at the back of the neck was getting such downloads and everything. We've just got the 1111 chiming on Sue's phone. And, you know, this was all in the base, and that was where his trauma had gathered, you know, and his stress and everything. And it took a couple of days to clear for him. And he really noticed that process by osmosis. He was here and he was getting his clearings as well, you know, and that's beautiful for someone that didn't come for that, or didn't think that, or didn't think anything of that was for them. But he also got his clearing, and now he's very present, and he doesn't have that drained look on him, and he's vibrant, and, you know, he's looking forward to his golf swing coming back.
Yeah, we'll see how that works. I have no idea. I do know that it'll help him be more confident and start enjoying life again, enjoying the time that he has. Because, like you said, none of us know how much time we have. We don't. So seizing that moment today, it's not just a platitude of carpe diem. It means actually you have to go out and find even the small thing that can make you happy today, or find a smile to share with somebody today, because start with something teeny tiny that can make you happy. And so that's my words of encouragement today. Jenny, what would you like to add? Anything you'd like to add?
The one thing that I would like to just add is just believe in you. Only you can know your truth. Only you can walk your path, and only you can know what's right for you. And that was the thing to really consolidate all of me, was to know that I am completely me. And that's the most important thing for me. No matter what happens from here on end, I am so at peace and so happy, and I'm home within me.
Yeah.
So that's, to me, that's a blessing. It's a miracle.
That's
for that, I am so grateful.
So would you like to finish off with some last words for everybody at home?
Yeah, I'd just like to remind everybody to remember it takes 5 times the amount of energy to worry and to fret and to be depressed as it does to be happy. It's an much easier way of life. So it's just a choice whether you take it or not. And a special thanks to Jenny for the healing that I received while I was here as well. Well, I was always here, but Jenny was here. She helped me through a barrier that I haven't been able to get through. So blessings and thank you very much.
Pleasure. It's a mutual exchange, my friend.
Always.
Thanks everyone for tuning in, and really blessed to have you and Reno here with us, Jenny. So have a great day, everyone. Please like and comment this. We'd love to hear about this talk. It wasn't the fluffy, warm and fuzzy talk today, but I think it was a really important conversation that so many people are not having and they need to have.
And also part of our work that Sue and I do as representatives of the grandmothers, you know, Australia's Council of 13 Grandmothers, is we have to speak our truths. We have to speak our journeys, because we have to show people what's real. And this is part of our journey as being one of the grandmothers, is to be able to talk and to be able to share our journeys, because there will be one person out there that will see themselves mirrored in what I've said. And if I could plant that seed of light and hope to them, I've done what I needed to do. And that's the main thing. When you feel hopeless or helpless, get outside, go to nature, find a tree, go to the ocean, look at the birds, look at some beauty, because there's always something that will give you a spark of light within. And that's where we have to just shift ourselves out of the funk and move into something that's going to move us into something that resembles hope or light or happiness or a connection. And that's where we must learn to reach out to people that can help and support us.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jenny. Thanks, Sue. And we'll be back again next week. I'm not sure what day, but stay
Bye.
tuned. See you.
Bye.